15-second.
Put that away somewhere.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Rutherford County School Board February 24th, 2022 meeting to order. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Miss Elizabeth Davis.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. I'd like to invite everybody to join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay. Approval of the agenda is item number 4. Any comments, questions, members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Do any members of the board have questions, comments, concerns?
I do have a question regarding bid number 3580 for the clock system. Is that for the all of the clocks that we had installed, or is that just on the biometric ones that were being installed?
Good question. Mr. Spurlock, is that a question?
Mr. Lee?
That's clock system for Kittrell School.
Kittrell.
It's actually the actual clock that are in the classroom,
Okay.
classroom clocks.
Okay. But it's okay. So it's not. That's not a time.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I was concerned. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Second. Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
Yeah, spotlight on education. I'd like for Miss Elizabeth Davis, she's our coordinator of the learning loss, to come up and give us an overview of the stream camps that we held in January.
Obviously, someone much taller than me was at this podium last. Good evening, you all. Thank you for allowing us to come and speak to you this evening. I wanted to highlight the success of our stream mini camp that we had in December. This was part of our summer learning camp funding that we requested a waiver for last year, so we put that off, and we felt like the beginning of our winter break was a perfect time to host these. So on the slide behind you, you can see some of our statistics, or in front of you, I'm sorry, you can see some of our statistics. So this was offered for our K-5 students at every elementary school. We had 2 teachers at each school. They each had a group of either K-2 students or 3-5 students. And we felt like a sweet spot was about 10 to 15. So overall, I believe we served about 500 students with that opportunity. They received 16 hours of enrichment over 4 days, so it was just in the mornings. And they got to explore a different career each day and then make products based on a goal or a situation that that career would possibly have. And we also served them a snack. So if you'll go ahead to the next slide. This is an example, and I brought some of our teacher and a couple of our 3 of our students to share their experience with you. So on the third day of the 3-5 stream camp, they were toy designers, and they created toys using their physical science standards. So I'm going to let Miss Dana Lester from Kittrell. She's an instructional coach, and she was our 3-5 teacher for that cohort. I'm going to let her introduce these students, and then they can tell you more about what they learned.
Hello, I'm Miss Lester, as Ms. Davis stated, and in my 21 years of teaching with Rutherford County, I've had the opportunity to teach everything from kindergarten to 5th grade in some capacity. But this was my first experience with a STEM or stream camp. So I was stepping outside my comfort zone and took on that challenge and found out that I loved it. Did we have a good time? We spent 4 days learning, researching, and then producing our own products according to certain specifications. I had 13 children in 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and together we worked through the design process each day. They designed backpacks built to meet the needs of the consumers they chose. They researched invasive species in Tennessee and created digital brochures letting the public know why that item was invasive and how to keep everything safe. And then we were toy designers, and we built toys that use physical science properties. As you can see on this screen, we have the Wango Mango Wagon here with you in person. The boys were very proud of this, named after the juice we had for snack. It was a very popular juice. And then on the 4th day, we designed airplanes, paper airplanes, cardboard airplanes, then we flew them, had contests. And I'm going to let my boys speak now. We did have girls at camp, but tonight is our father-daughter dance, so I could not get them away to come. So they're at school dancing. Turner, you want to tell them a little bit about camp? I'll hold this.
Camp was fun because we did a lot of fun activities, and we designed it the box because the juice that it carried.
Wonderful. And Dustin Bonlow is a 5th grader.
We got to do lots of fun things and build and watch some videos about fishes and stuff.
And Johnny McBee is a 4th grader who was at camp.
So we had really fun. We had really fun at the camp. Me and my sister went and we built a board game because I really like board games. So yeah, we made a board game, and then we made paper airplanes, and we had a really good time there.
If you would like to see more of the student products, we have some on display in the back of the room. They're divided into K2 and 3-5, and they're labeled by the career that they explored with those products. And then also, if you'll flip back to the previous slide, and we can show their video. The hashtag RCSStream 2021 was the Twitter hashtag we used for those products. And we can show you a video of their car running. Hopefully.
Wow. Buffering.
Great.
Good job. Good.
So I really liked these products because Ms. Lester told me when they were in the process that they really had to do some trial and error to figure out how to make it roll. They put the foam on the bottom to add friction to the wheels so that they would roll better. So I really think they got some great learning experience from this. Thank you guys for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. It's always wonderful to see those programs in our schools.
It is.
Next item are visitors. We have 2 this evening. First visitor is Miss Stephanie Mason Sexton. Yes, please.
It's going to be difficult to condense all this into 3 minutes, but I'm going to try with a recap. Schools contact me if my child has fallen and might come home with a minor mark. My children can't take an aspirin unless I check in an unopened bottle. But on January 12th, my son was hit by a school bus on school property, causing significant damage to his vehicle without anyone ever notifying me. RCS policy states law enforcement and parents are notified immediately when a school bus accident occurs with students on board. Should the same not hold true for an empty bus that strikes a student vehicle? I was advised police should have been called and advised police wouldn't take a report on school grounds. When property damage accidents occur on school properties, are police called or not? I was told the footage from the school bus had been reviewed and didn't really show anything. I was told my son could be cited for leaving the scene of an accident if I pursued getting a police report done. The bus driver lied, saying my son ran a stop sign and didn't want to contact anyone when the accident occurred. My request, submitted January 14th, to view the bus footage wasn't granted until after an article ran in the DNJ on January 29th. The claim wasn't actually submitted to the insurance company until February 2nd, 3 days after I viewed the video. I'd been told multiple times it was already filed with the insurance company. Today is 6 weeks and 1 day since the accident. I don't feel confidently closer to a resolution. We have been stymied, discouraged, and lied to every step of this. What do I want to achieve by speaking here today? First and foremost, I would really like to see the bus driver fired. She reached speeds up to 31 miles per hour on school property, made a tight left turn at 14 miles per hour, struck my son's vehicle, admitted liability in person, then submitted a false report to the safety office and with the county insurance provider. Yet, she's still driving our children. I want my son to receive an apology. I want the report stating my son ran a stop sign and hit the school bus to be redacted. I want my son's vehicle repaired. Finally, I want RCS policy to be examined and changed. It's clear from our experience there are severe gaps in procedures regarding school bus accidents, student accidents, and accidents on school property. My daughter was on a bus years ago when a minor accident occurred on a roadway. Police and policy was clear on law enforcement and parents being notified immediately. I received a call before she even made it home. No child on that bus was injured, nor did any suffer property damage. However, take the child off the bus, put them in their own vehicle on school property, and all bets are off if your child gets hit and suffers thousands in property damage. They're on their own, and this is a problem.
Thank you, Ms. Sexton. Our next visitor is Mr. Chris Littleton.
Board members, I'm going to leave this with Mrs. Hopkins. She can distribute it either now or after. This actually just happened today around 2 p.m. So I have 2 kids at Blackman High School, and this is not the first time this has happened. And that is, when you read this, you'll be able to figure out what. But essentially, a member of REA, actually the president of REA, is using staff emails, and it is to all staff emails. I have the screenshots because this was provided to me by a teacher. Again, not the first time it's happened. Organizing from their perspective what staff should be doing and engaging in legislative policy. I would be the very first person to tell you we should absolutely be involved in legislative policy, and I would encourage all the teachers to be involved in legislative policy. The problem here is that you're using school time and resources to do it, and that part is inappropriate. In this case, they're addressing multiple policies that, again, I think we should all be involved in. One, it seemed particularly concerning from their perspective, as they were concerned that a particular bill that was proposed in the legislature was going to basically put forward the virtues of capitalism and a constitutional republic over a form of government as compared to communism and socialism. Okay, that's fine. I certainly have my own perspective on that, which is not relevant in this particular position, but I don't think they should be using public resources to advocate for their position. They then conclude in the email, basically, that they've already gotten involved and that a vice president of REA has also been involved, and they're asking teachers to do the same. They list legislators, emails, resources, committee meetings, things of that nature. Things that would be perfectly appropriate if they're doing it through REA's email. I have absolutely no problem with them broadcasting that out to their own members. But the teacher that contacted me about this, because obviously I have no ability to see something like this, it's going to staff email, wrote me and said, I hate that the implication here is that she is giving us talking points on what to think. So they're taking this as something that is coming from a position of authority, which I'm not saying that the principal okayed this. I have no way of knowing that either. But when it goes out to all staff and it's made as a sort of a generic legislative update to staff members, that's particularly concerning for me as a parent. One of the teachers that is involved in this particular email, we also have reports that I haven't brought to you guys, there's nothing that's on your plate, that they're saying things in classroom that are inappropriate. From a political perspective, they're pushing kind of their own opinions in the classroom. Okay, whole different issue, but now I see it happening with other teachers, and I just really want to bring it to your attention because I think we need to clarify. There is a policy in place that talks about not engaging in political activity at school. I've read it myself. But it may be vague enough that they're trying to sort of be cute and word these things so that it passes under that radar. So there may be clarification needed within that policy. So really just bringing this to your attention so we can clarify that policy moving forward so that school resources aren't used for these kinds of things. They can do it on their own time with their own resources. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Can I respond?
Yeah, Mr.
Just to be clear, Mr. Littleton, that is not appropriate. And I think Dr. Anthony and I had a conversation concerning that same matter. But feel free to, anytime, you don't have to just wait to bring it to the board meeting, bring it to me because we will address it immediately because you're absolutely correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Littleton. Next item is number 8.
All right. Number 8 is the charter school resolution letter. Mr. Reed.
Yeah, board members, Mr. Young reached out to me and asked that we get a letter kind of composed to the governor's office and maybe the state legislators to kind of express concerns or comments with regard to the recent the charter school appeal process that the school system went through. Mr. Young put together some initial notes in the letter and I edited up some to result in the letter which you have before you tonight. And if you will bear with me for a second, I'll read through this, and I guess what Mr. Young, and I'll let him speak for himself, is suggesting maybe if this is appropriate, maybe we get a vote of the board to authorize this to be sent on behalf of the entire board to the governor's office, state legislators for our district, our county, and anyone else in governmental office that we want to send this to. So here's the proposed letter. It's addressed to dear Governor Bill Lee and state legislators. Our Board of Education is writing to you to express its concern regarding its recent experience with the State of Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. Our board recently considered the application of Rethink Forward, Inc. for a charter school in Rutherford County. The Board of Education found the application to not meet the minimum requirements established by the State Department of Education and accordingly denied the application. As you may be aware, the State Department of Education established a scoring rubric to be applied to charter school applications, and a charter applicant must meet or exceed elements of the scoring rubric to be approved. The charter applicant appealed to the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission pursuant to its appeal rights established under the new state legislation. The commission staff conducted a hearing in Rutherford County pursuant to the new state law, and notably none of the commissioners from the Public Charter School Commission were present. The executive director for the Public Charter School Commission in an extensive report also found that the charter applicant did not meet or exceed the required state requirements and recommended the denial of the application. Contrary to the findings of both the Board of Education and the executive director of the State Public Charter School Commission, the commission approved the charter school application at its appeal hearing. Our school system established a committee composed of educators and private citizens to review the application pursuant to state law. The committee and school system staff spent hundreds of hours working through the extensive scoring rubric established by the State Department of Education to objectively determine whether the applicant met state standards pursuant to state requirements. Both the committee and the staff determined the application did not meet or exceed the minimum standards established by the State Department of Education. Our Board of Education likewise reviewed the application and determined unanimously that the application did not meet the state requirements and voted to deny the application. The applicant was provided a second opportunity to present an application, but again was not found to meet state minimum requirements. The appeal by the charter school applicant was to the newly created Public Charter School Commission, whose members are appointees of the governor. The Public Charter School Commission voted 4-3 to approve the charter school application. Certainly, several members of the commission recognized the problems with the application. However, it was evident the majority of the commissioners view their role as simply to approve the establishment of more charter schools, regardless of the deficiencies in the application. The procedure before the commission did not even provide an agenda item for either the applicant or the school system to address the commission. The commission allowed phone-in callers who were predominantly charter school industry individuals to state the merits of charter schools in general terms without addressing the details of the specific application before the commission. The commission then even went so far as to allow one call-in person to purport to have agreed to provide millions of dollars in funding for the applicant without any vetting of the individual, and despite the applicant having gone through the approval process for months without ever presenting evidence of any such funding. The process before the Public Charter School Commission is weighted heavily in favor of charter applicants, has no credibility, and is not objective. If the state desires to provide carte blanche approval for charter schools, regardless of whether applicants meet state requirements, then the state should save school systems time and money by not involving locally elected school boards and have the state fully fund the charter schools without involving local funding. The current process overrides the elected school board and vests control over local funding in the hands of unelected appointees. If the objective of the current process is to ensure quality charter schools in Tennessee, the process fails in that regard. At a recent health education meeting held by the Rutherford County Commission, a county commissioner commented that we used to be concerned with the cost of federal mandates. Now we have to be concerned with the cost of state mandates. The current system for charter school creates a state mandate which requires local tax dollars to fund the state's desire for charter schools. If the state desires charter schools, the state should be the entity approving the same and funding the same. In years of serving on the Board of Education, our school board members have never received one phone call or email asking for our Board of Education to consider charter schools in Rutherford County or vouchers. It appears the charter school lobby has the ears of many of our state elected officials. We would urge those certain elected officials to keep an objective mind as to charter schools and to also ensure the process the state implements for reviewing charter schools functions to help ensure good quality schools. The Rutherford County Board of Education does not oppose charter schools in where and when needed if the school district is not meeting state guidelines. Our Board of Education, however, is concerned when charter schools are approved in areas where school districts are not failing and not approved by the locally elected decision makers. Rutherford County has set an example of how to provide quality public education in our state. Rutherford County continues to raise the bar in education as the largest, fastest growing school district in the state of Tennessee. Our system is consistently recognized as an exemplary system and provides such education at less cost per student than most all school districts in Tennessee and our nation. It is time for Rutherford County state representatives to review and challenge the process being used to approve charter schools. The local LEAs need not shoulder the responsibility in vetting charter schools who already seem to have a rubber stamp of approval regardless of whether they meet state guidelines. The current process eats up extensive staff time when time could better be served in addressing student needs. Our school system has now had to dedicate one full-time employee to servicing charter school applications due to the time the process consumes when those funds otherwise could have gone for more teachers. If the current application process for charter schools continues, our state is likely to end up with low-quality charter schools in areas where they are not needed while adding more burden to our taxpayers. Rutherford County Schools has just experienced the burden of one application. Our school system already has 2 additional applications for the next school year. Taxpayers will now experience the effects of additional cost of salaries to vet those additional applications and face the diversion of additional local funds from a fast-growing school system where the funds are desperately needed. The burden should fall on the state to vet charter schools and present to the LEAs for approval, and the state should fully fund the same if the state desires charter schools without requiring local tax dollars. Sincerely, the Rutherford County Board of Education. So that is a proposed draft of the letter. There's nothing magical in the language here. If there's any comments or suggested changes to the language or any provisions we want to be added to or stricken, certainly that could be done. But I think the idea was this would be a letter the board might consider to be approved, to be sent on behalf of the Board of Education to the governor's office and to our local state legislative representatives and to any other governmental bodies or groups we want to send it to. Along the line, something that has kind of happened yesterday, as you probably heard, the Senate Education Committee did have a new bill they approved yesterday that does have the state approve charter schools directly, bypassing the local boards of education. So some of the things that we have addressed here in this letter were addressed in that Senate committee legislation yesterday. So that just happened yesterday. So you probably saw some of that in the news. So if that changes anything we want to do in this letter, we can certainly take that into account as well. But with that, I don't know, Mr. Young, if you want to add any more to that or not.
I appreciate your time. I know a lot of people put time into the charter schools and trying to vet applications here at the Rutherford County School Board. And I just feel like it's time that if we don't make a statement now and get this stopped, we're just going to keep getting bombarded, and we're going to be tying up some valuable people's time up here with a process that it doesn't matter. They're going to rubber stamp it anyway. So we need to put the burden back onto the state. The state's the one that brought this to us. They need to be the ones that vet them. They need to be the ones to figure out how they're going to fund it. And then, really and truly, we should have the final say-so. By us not having the final say-so, then the state has overreached their powers and taken the power away from us. The local school board has no power. So I'm very, I guess, want to support this and would like to get the support of the board. And I'd like to also get the support of the city school system. And I know our county commissioners have always been with us on this issue, so hopefully they'll continue to support this and see if we can't get the message out to our state legislators that they need to be paying attention to this. I just don't feel like there's been enough attention paid to this, and we're about to let Rutherford County taxpayers' money start going out of the state of Tennessee. It's going to be going to Michigan. It's going to be going to California, Indiana, Illinois. Anybody wants to come there and set up a charter school, they're going to be getting Rutherford County taxpayers' money, and I think that's not acceptable.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any other comments from members of the board? Ms. Sharp?
I'd like to. Ms. Johnson and I spoke of this letter. Thank you, Mr. Young, for bringing this up. And there's some things I agree on in here, and there's some things that I don't agree on in here. We all know that our governor wants this done. We all know that our legislators are favorable to this. So my question is what do we really think that this is going to, what's going to come out of this letter? Dr. Chastain and I spoke this afternoon, and Ms. Johnson spoke about this, of us writing some legislations to put in the gap in there, because I don't feel like this letter is going to do anything. I think if we go to our legislators who actually have bills right now on charter schools and we do an addendum or something like that to them, I think that that's going to be more likely successful than sending this letter to them. Because this is more like a resolution. There's no teeth in this. And we do need to be protected, but we also need to look at the fact that these people are coming in here and they want to be partners with us. We can't build schools fast enough. We're overcrowded. We just went to the county commissioners on Tuesday night. And so out of one side of our mouth, we're saying, please fund us, please fund us, please fund us. But then on the other side, we're saying we don't want these schools coming in here. And should we judiciously go through the process of looking at how they're doing it? Yes, but we can't build fast enough. So my premise is I don't think this letter is going to do anything. I thank you, Mr. Young, for taking the time and Mr. Reed for taking the time. But I think our time might be better spent really working with our legislatures and trying to put some stopgaps in there. Dr. Chastain spoke this afternoon. We had a few minutes to speak, and there's a lot of things that she's been working on this project that she's got ideas on that will protect us and will help us maybe level the playing field.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Any other comments by members of the board? I will say, Ms. Sharp and I did have a conversation about this, and I agree on both points. And then, Ms. Sharp, I would ask you then, and maybe Mr. Reed, you can help weigh in on this, because we have had this conversation repeatedly about our legislators. Our legislative delegation, I guess for Rutherford County, has committed to carrying or entertaining carrying a piece of legislation. Would it be advantageous for us to potentially draft something, some model language to send along with this letter to more specifically state what we want from them? And then if that's what they're asking for from us, then maybe that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I think the letter is just a kind of a general statement of your concerns with respect to kind of the charter school application process, and I think raises some awareness in the minds of state legislators that there may be some issues there for them to look at. When you get to the specifics of legislation, that's something that takes, if we're trying to tie into some existing legislation and things like that, I mean, we probably need to sit down with some of our local state legislators face to face, see the bills that are currently pending, and then write something up along the lines of what we're wanting in specific context. So I think you've got two different things there. I think this is just a part of it, the piece to address the issue. But I agree, I certainly do not disagree with your point that from a legislative standpoint, if we really want some concrete laws passed to require some vetting of these charter school applicants, then that's something we can probably address with our state legislators and draft some legislation for them to look at and possibly introduce to address that.
And I think part of this is, it is a new process. It's a new process for us. It's a new process for the Charter Commission. It's a new process for the state. And I think that there can be some give and take with all of it to help us meet our students' needs. And maybe we do draft legislation and just tell them to, with this letter, and send it up there.
Have we spoken to Murfreesboro City or Rhonda Allen with Health and Ed about joining us in this letter?
I've not spoken specifically with anyone else
Okay.
About joining us with this
Okay.
letter, because it came to you first, not knowing what this board wanted to do.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we have a joint meeting coming up with our state. I think that'd be a good time for us to have more continued discussion on this. And I agree with Ms. Sharp on the amending some of their bills up there to be more favorable for us. At the same time, I would like to go ahead and get this letter approved by the board here tonight. And let's get this circulated. I would like to make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Young. We have a motion to approve and send this letter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Ms. Hopkins, can we do a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
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 No?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Next item, number 9.
All right, next item is our Education Preparation Provider Program update, and Ms. Murphy and her crew want to come up. Got some great news there, and report card and all that stuff.
Hi there. I'm Rebecca Murphy. I'm our EPP specialist. This is Dr. Amber Matuszewski. She's joined us this year as our EPP Math Science Facilitator. And we are glad to be here, and thank you for your time to share some program successes that we've had after we're in our 3rd year of operation now. And we've been going long enough to get some great feedback, and just wanted an opportunity to come up and share that with you. We've provided you with a one-pager with some of those facts to just kind of walk through. We've been really excited to be sort of on the forefront, as we know we need to find ways to recruit and retain our teachers. We are now one of 2 district-led EPPs in the state and have had this great opportunity to sort of lead that charge.
Ms. Murphy, can I interrupt real quick?
Please.
Could you, just for the audience, to explain what that means, education preparation provider, what we're doing?
Sure. So we provide an alternative pathway opportunity for job-embedded teachers who want to come in and start teaching full-time in the classroom while completing their requirements to complete their education coursework. Typically in the past, those teachers who come in on the job-embedded model have had to attend university classes. We offer an alternative pathway that provides that coursework in a 2-year cohort program and saves them a lot of money along the way compared to the universities. So our goals right now is we're working in year 3, and we've gotten established and we're off and running. So now we're still continuing to work with our district as our primary partner to increase our recruitment and keep the teachers that we get. And then as we've started off, every year that we've been in operation, we've been very fortunate to be able to expand to more content areas where we started with just our CTE programs. Now we can offer those to math and science. That's when we brought on Dr. Matuszewski to teach those courses. And we've got the opportunity this year, we got approval to add the math and science middle school pathways. So starting with our 22-23 school year, we can officially offer that pathway to our teachers as well. So we hope, as we're doing this work with our current teachers, that we can continue those efforts to grow the program. You can see the list of the pathways that we offer. And under that is some data that we wanted to share with you we've gotten our report card information, the data back from the TDOE. And one of the things we were really excited about was the provider impact data. And that measures that's the state looking at the metric of teachers' observation scores on the team evaluation and their level of effectiveness scores. So I'll quickly just run through this, but what we are very proud of, you can see in those first 2 rows, we are looking at our occupational CTE teachers only, as the data for this report card comes from just our first 2 years of operation. And so we're looking at just that group of teachers. And when we compare apples to apples with some of the university programs, we're seeing that we have 100% of our teachers scoring at level 3 or above on their observations. Almost 90% of our teachers are scoring at 90% of our teachers are scoring at level 4 or above on those observations. And when we compare to the university occupational programs and the state average, we can see that we're really on track, and what we're doing is working as far as boosting that effectiveness of our teachers. Looking below that for the level of effectiveness scores overall, and that takes into account not just teachers' observations, but their achievement and their growth data as well. All of our teachers in our program that were part of the sample size are scoring at level 4 or above. And when we compare with the universities in the state average, this is not, for our program, it's just measuring occupational CTE teachers. So it's comparing with those universities to all of their content areas, but we can see that we are well above those numbers. And so that's giving us a good indication that what we're doing is working and effective.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes, please.
On the level of effectiveness in the observational scores, a 3 is at expectations, a 4 is above expectations, and anything above that is significantly above. So I'd also add the cohorts. When you look at our cohorts, they're much smaller than the universities, even though the universities are small compared to what they used to be. And I say all that because it's outstanding work done here with that small cohort, because one messes up, you got some issues.
It does, it weighs heavily. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's part of our success is that small cohort model. We're able to go in and offer not just the classwork, but the one-on-one support in the classroom with that teacher, working with our instructional coaches and directly with the mentors that are serving those teachers as well. And that, I think that's been a huge indicator of our success as well. One of the things we're very proud of in our first cohort, those teachers, most of them are wrapping up there at the end of their 3-year practitioner license and looking to advance. So far, we've retained 12 of our initial 14 of those teachers, indicating to me that what we're doing to support them has helped get them through the challenges of being a first-year teacher, especially in the COVID era. We've held on to a good percentage of that group. And I'm very proud to brag on them that so far, all of them that have taken their post-assessment to demonstrate their educational pedagogical knowledge, 100% of those teachers have passed that assessment so far. In our second group, this was truly the COVID cohort. Their first year was distance learning, and 6 of our original 9 teachers are still going, and they are going strong. They have been fantastic. We currently have 17 teachers in our CTE cohort, and most of them are in their brand new first year, and they are going strong. We get a lot of great feedback from them regularly and from them. And then we have 15 teachers in our first math and science cohort, and I'm really excited. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Matuszewski to share some of that update with you as well.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Of course, she passed the test by pronouncing my name correctly, so great job. We'll ask you all to spell it later. So thank you guys so much for letting us talk about our program. I've had an amazing year. An interesting statistic is actually 50% of my cohort is under 25 years old. And so their enthusiasm and energy that they're bringing to the classroom is amazing. These guys are doing a great job. So we are piloting the SMART curriculum. That stands for Science, Math, Alternative Route to Teaching. And this was created by SREB, the Southern Regional Education Board. So as we're partnering with them and working with them, we're actually collecting data to see about how effective this program is. And the original data it's amazing. These teachers are feeling supported. They think our just-in-time approach to delivering the material is really working for them. The cohort model, the one-on-one coaching and mentoring, we've just got excellent feedback on that. So we did want to share some snippets from our qualitative data collection. So at the bottom, you see some quotes down there. I will not read them all, but I did want to share 2 of my favorites. So the second one, I finally feel like someone is showing me how to be an excellent teacher versus just learning how to survive. So that teacher had already taught for 1 year, so I thought that was pretty powerful. And the last quote is from an EPP mentor. So we pair them with mentors within their home schools. And so the mentor said, the participant was way more prepared than any of us to start the school year. In fact, we stole some of their materials from summer induction. So they go through a 2-week intensive summer induction where we try to help them lesson plan for the first couple of weeks and really build that classroom culture. So I thought that was really saying something about that curriculum. So, Ms. Murphy, do you have anything else to
No?
add?
Do you all have any questions for us?
Any questions?
I would like to say is I think it's a great program that you're doing this because industry, folks coming out of industry, I've been in industry most of my life, and they can bring a lot to the table to teach these kids, but they need this extra support moving forward and fitting in the system per se. So congratulations, great job. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the information. Great job. Next item.
All right, number 10, a contractual agreement with Specialized Education for Tennessee Inc. High Road School of Nashville provides instructional support for students with a range of disabilities requiring behavior support. The contract will be in addition to the other contracted services for behavioral needs for students which cannot be met by other contract due to lack of space or inability to provide the required services as determined by the student's individualized educational plan, the IEP. Recommend motion to approve this contract with Specialized Education of Tennessee, Inc. to be paid out of GP funds for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year at the rate of $207 per day per student, with additional costs of $113 per hour for services of occupational therapy, physical therapy, and/or speech-language therapy. Additional costs of $181 per day for one assistant as determined by the student's IEP as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I just was concerned. This High Roads of Nashville, are they going to come to us, or are we going to have to take the children to them? Because I know when I was in SPED, we had kids that did both.
They provide, they come to us, but they provide it on our campus.
Okay, so the kids don't have to go to them. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
This $113 an hour, I know the nurses and the other therapy designations should be in the same area. How does that fall in with our nurses' pay.
This is contracted as a service, Mr. Bowdry. It's different than a regular RN or stuff like that.
Correct. I don't know if it's a LPN or RN that they're using with this third-party provider, but we pay significantly better for our registered nurses
Right.
than that. That's, once again, it's just a contracted service, and I'm going to assume that, they're billing for the other students that are in the building or that they're coming.
These are just billable hours. This is, they're not staying all day or anything like that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain?
All right, number 11 is ESL extended contracts found on tab 3. The ESL department will continue writing curriculum units for newcomers in grades K through 2 from March through July of 2022. 20 ESL teachers will be offered extended contracts for their work on these projects. The contract will be funded through Title III funds. The approximate cost of the curriculum writing initiative will be $25,000. Recommend motion to approve the Title III funded extended contracts for curriculum development for the ESL program as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, members of the board? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, the next item of policy changes and new policy below are the policy changes recommended by the policy committee on second of 2 readings. Policy changes are A, policy 1.400, school board meetings. It added guidelines for posters and materials from visitors during the school board meeting. It was sent back to policy for further deliberation from the board meeting on December 16th of 2021. You want to take these together or
Members
individually?
of the board, would you like to take them individually?
Separately, please.
Yes, separately is fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we have policy 1.400. Any questions, comments, concerns? If there are none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any member wish to abstain? Next policy, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, policy 1.404, appeals and appearances before the board. Made changes to the visitor process and decorum requirements in line with allowable and unallowable restrictions as established by the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. It was sent back to policy committee for further deliberations from the board meeting on December 16th of 2021.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns, members of the board? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any member wish to abstain? Next policy.
All right, enrollment in advanced courses. It added clarity to the enrollment in advanced and college level courses from the state board policy.
You've heard the policy. Any comments, questions, concerns? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next policy.
Policy D, 5.602, staff time schedules, changes language to the state that a supervisor has the authority to have an employee use compensatory time hours before overtime pay.
Thank you. We've heard the policy. Comments, questions, concerns? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you, Mr. Holden. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next policy.
All right, policy 6.411, student wellness. It adds language from the TCA 49-6-1021 to state amount of time required for physical activity.
Thank you. We've heard the policy. Comments, questions, or concerns? If there are none, we will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next policy.
These are new policies. Policy 1.1021, student member of the board. It adds a student representative and a deputy student representative to the board.
Thank you. We've heard the policy. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
These are non-voting members.
Non-voting.
And will they be sitting up here with us? Or will they just be in the room? That's what I'm.
It's a great question. Ms. Bratton, do we have an answer for that?
No, we do not have an
Okay.
answer for that.
I didn't know.
Did that need to go in the policy? I mean,
I had someone ask me today.
really?
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, so I'll ask. So.
Well, that's a very good question, and I think it's
be.
something that could be decided very easily. They could be
I don't
right
know if
there.
there's enough room over there. They could, is there any way we could put another desk in here for them? We can? Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, we can just move that over a little bit and put another desk up there.
I don't know if I can move the podium, but I could at least set one beside.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
Also, how are they going to be chosen? What's the process for
That's
them to be
all
chosen?
in the policy.
Okay.
Actually, I was going to nominate you to be on the committee.
Okay.
Sounds good. Taking care of all the
I was
business.
going to nominate you to help take care of that.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Holden?
Will there be some guidelines, I guess, to come with this of where they participate and how
Yes.
they participate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our policy is pretty extensive. We worked on it quite a while from the first night. So go back and look at all of that again.
Okay, very good.
But it still has to be selected, goes through a process, and that's where I was going to nominate Ms. Sharp.
Ms. Ridley, why don't you send that back out to all the board? I'm sure they all have it, but send it back out to them.
Because we changed a lot of that policy. That was the one we did the most work on, so, okay.
And I have a question for Ms. Ridley, then. Do we need to specify maybe more clearly in the language of the policy Ms. Maxwell's question or further questions? Do you think we need to do that, or where the student will sit? Yeah, no, well, we know the student won't vote, but where the student will, what the expectations of that student's interaction with the board will be. Do you think that's something that we need to itemize in the policy? Okay.
Yeah.
Ms.
So do you want to wait, or do you want to approve this policy now?
Are you asking me, Ms. Bratton?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I think that's the board's decision.
I love that.
I think anytime we're looking, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think anytime we're looking at policy, because it is what we operate on and it is the standard, I think we want to make sure that we're crystal clear. So, Mr. Spurlock, you were going to make a comment.
I was going to agree with you. I think that's what you're going to say, that we bring it back. You want to do that?
Yeah, I think I would recommend, I think this is so important, and there are questions. I did field some from some families today. If the board could be agreeable, maybe we can get that policy sent back to us, and then we can look at this at the next board meeting. Would that be acceptable for the board?
It's okay with me.
Okay.
I mean, whatever. I just want the policy passed, and then we'll
Appreciate
figure out what needs to be done.
Mr. Reed, what can you help us with proper protocol? Do we need, because this is the second reading of this policy, do we need to have a motion to send it back, or put it to the next calendar, move it to the next calendar?
I would have a motion to table this to the next board meeting, if the board is so inclined.
Thank you.
But if it's tabled to the next board meeting, does that mean it's tabled to the next board meeting or tabled to the next policy meeting?
No, board meeting.
Board meeting.
Board meeting, okay.
I move that we table this policy till the next board meeting.
We have a motion.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? This next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, the next item is our general purpose school fund budget amendment for additional state pre-K grant funding. We actually were allocated 2 more additions. This amendment budgets for additional appropriation of the state pre-K grant funding that was awarded to Rutherford County for current fiscal year. This additional grant award fund one additional pre-K teacher and an EA, both at Christiana Elementary and Wilson Elementary Schools, as well as fund additional pre-K instructional supplies and other pre-K classroom equipment. I will say that we had 190 on a waiting list.
Wow.
And we do have a pretty robust pre-K program, but this adds 2 more to that. Motion to approve this fiscal year 2021-22 general purpose school budget as presented in a total of $177,411 to budget for additional pre-K grant funding as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns, members of the board? Seeing none, will entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Estes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item.
All right, next items from our centralized cafeteria fund budget amendment for additional supply chain assistance grant and additional USDA seamless summer program reimbursement, as well as Fund 143 revenue budget cleanup. This amendment budgets an additional $3,912,879 in USDA seamless summer program reimbursement, along with $974,121 in federal NSLP supply chain assistant grant. Expenditure increases in the food services for increased food preparation and food costs, along with contracted services for maintenance on equipment, delivery fees, and remodeling of our cafeteria serving areas. Additional funding of $600,000 for needed replacement of fully depreciated aged food prep equipment in multiple Rutherford County school kitchens, including the replacement of the 33-year-old stove at McFadden School.
Oh.
I appreciate you putting that in there, Doug.
Wow.
This amendment also cleans up revenue line items to reflect the continuance of the USDA Seamless Summer Program for the remainder of the fiscal year 2021-2022. At this time, the USDA has stated they prefer the National School Lunch Program return to regular serving method next year, i.e. return to traditional pricing method for breakfast and lunch programs. Probably shouldn't say this, but right now, when we left off, the meals were how much per student?
I believe it's around just over $3 for the.
Right, just
the
a little over
student in the high school.
$3 for a lunch a meal. Guys, inflation has hit us, so we're probably looking. It could. I mean, this is sticker shock. Could be about $5 a meal.
Definitely going to be over 4.
Right. I mean, you know, we've been a long time with this. You know, so you know, we'll put this out as, you know. I think it's fair enough when we get a cost analysis of what this is going to look like, that we will put it out to parents way ahead of time as much as we can, so that they can adjust going forward. All right, motion to approve this Fund 143 budget amendment as presented to increase revenues as well as expenditures by $4,887,000 as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns?
I need to ask, thank you, Ms. Maxwell, is this the stove that we were looking at to
No.
Okay, so we got another
Oh, but
stove.
it's
We
not
need.
that old.
Yeah, we got another stove we need to replace, so.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more.
Okay. If there is no other questions or comments, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
second.
Young. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Facilities.
All right, found on tab 6, this is Rockville High School request for a concrete batting cage. Principal Steve Luker and Rockville High baseball team has made a request to add a concrete pad for a batting cage. Engineering and Construction has reviewed the request and the location and finds it acceptable. The request is at no cost to the board. Motion to approve the Rockville High School batting cage concrete at no cost to the board as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, members of the board? If none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Maxwell.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? All right. Next item.
All right. Next item is our insurance update.
Yes, we had a 2-hour meeting today on the insurance committee. They were talking back and forth of whether they're kind of waiting for the Board of Ed to decide if we're going to stay with the current plan or go with the state. They're also looking at the new data with some of the new programs with the HSA to get another month's worth of data. So they're looking forward to trying to make a decision next month at the end of March of whether they're going to stay and continue with Cigna and using Mercer as their facilitator, or if they are going to the State Department.
Thank you. Any questions?
When is our deadline to make a decision?
There's not necessarily a, but just for budget purposes for the county, we'd probably want to have something in, before you, either if not March, then April. That way we could, unless there's a couple more items that, have to be hammered out. I talked to Ms. Johnson about that. It's just basically if we could get some direction from this board on the Medicare Advantage plan. It's obviously from last time you met, you had the Cigna rep come and speak to you about the Medicare Advantage plans and the pros and the cons, and got a lot of questions answered. At this point, I really would like to, because once again we've discussed the grandfathered retirees that we currently have with drug coverage, that they would stay on the county's retiree plans should this board vote to go with the active employees and pre-65, the state plans. Those grandfathered retirees would stay with the county plans. And of course, the county is looking at going to a Medicare Advantage plan. I spoke with Cigna, and like I told Ms. Johnson, Cigna had communicated to me that they said the BOE retirees could stay on the current plan that they have if that was the will of the board. So basically what I'm needing from the board is just some direction. Would you like to see the retirees go with the county retirees to the Medicare Advantage plan, or would you like to wait a year to see, just leave our retirees where they're at? I mean, or do you need more information?
Do you want me to jump in here? Everybody's looking at me to see what I'm about to say.
What is your opinion?
Let me make sure I understand you. We can move our employees to the state plan, but leave the 477 on the plan that we are exactly on right now.
Retirees.
The retirees, the 477.
Yes.
And let's just say we do that, Mr. Bodery. Then who is taking care of those retirees? Is it Rutherford County still taking care of those retirees, or do we then fall under the county and they can tell us what to do?
Those are still BOE employees.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
The contract is with Rutherford County.
Okay.
But what I was informed from Cigna was that they would administer the plan as it is now.
Okay, but if the 477 had a problem, they would come to Rutherford County.
As they do now.
As they do now, exactly. And if the county government decided to go to the Medicare Advantage, those 477 people do not have to go, right?
That's what I was told from Cigna.
Got that in writing?
I can get it in writing.
Do we need to have another insurance meeting?
One more probably would be good.
I think that would be an excellent suggestion, yes. Let's do that. Okay?
Okay. Any other insurance questions, comments? No? Next item, Mr.
All right, directors, the only thing I'll give you an update. Of course, we know that Governor Lee came out today about the new funding formula. We followed up with an online meeting. Mr. Boder and I gave us some ideas about what the base looks like. Don't really want to share it right now because I'll actually get it, a projection, And what the projection is based on is our 5 years of ADM, with the exception taking out the years of COVID. You know, we know last year we actually did not have growth, but this year we had 1,800 additional ADM. So with that said, you know, once I get that information, I'll provide that with you guys. Now, keep in mind, this is a projection of the base. It would appear to me, and I think Mr. Brody would agree, there's more state money coming with it than what we currently get. That was some things that was discussed there. But just as soon as I get that, I will share it with the board.
Thank you. All right. Number 17, Tennessee Legislative, you have a report for us?
Well, the big thing that happened today was the governor unveiled his plan, the multi-billion-dollar K-12 education funding system, where he promises to $750 million more annually to the new formula starting in 2023-2024. According to the legislation introduced Thursday, schools would receive a base dollar amount of $6,860 per student, with options to increase that amount depending on the student's location and needs under a matrix known as unique learning needs. For example, schools with students with dyslexia or a disability would receive more funding, as well as those students in small districts or where poverty is concentrated, calculated using an algorithm outlined in the legislation. Schwinn told reporters that schools could receive as much as $15,600 per student, depending on how many unique learning needs a student meets. Schools will have the option to receive more state dollars through student-generated outcome incentives, which will reward high reading scores or demonstrations that students have strong college and career readiness. The plan would allocate $100 million for such incentives. Stipends also would be provided to fast-growing schools. Schwinn said another $125 million in the upcoming budget would be added to boost teacher salaries, and through the proposed formula, the minimum salary, which was $35,000 in January 2019, would increase to $46,000 by 2026. School districts that receive low marks could be asked to defend themselves before the General Assembly and risk facing corrective actions. Let's see here. And the goal is to have to finalize the overhaul of the funding formula by the end of the legislative session. If approved, implementation would begin in the 2023-2024 school year. However, many lawmakers have yet had a chance to examine the new proposal, and it's unclear how many are willing to take on the massive task before adjourning.
Thank you. Do you have anything for federal?
Don't have anything federal level.
You gave us a bunch with what you just shared, so we appreciate it. Number 19, general discussion.
Well, I have.
Yes, Ms.
Maxwell. As you know, I've been a little discouraged about some of the ways we've been doing our electronic timekeeping with our employees regarding morale and such. And so I was wanting to know, and I could look to Mr. Reed, is there anything, it's not on our agenda tonight, so I know we can't vote on anything, but I would like at some point for us to vote to decide whether we want to keep the biometrics. And I was wanting to know if we could put a pause on things and perhaps until then. Director, is that, are we able to do that?
We can put a pause on it, absolutely.
And then we can come back at the next meeting, perhaps put this on the agenda, and we can vote as a board whether we want to continue with the biometric timekeeping.
Yeah, you can do that on the next agenda, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed, I've got one more, one question, because Ms. Johnson and I spoke about this earlier, and it was my understanding that the caveat for taking the LEAs completely out of the charter picture was if we unapproved or didn't approve 3 charter schools.
I have not seen the final version of that legislation, so I don't know. So I don't need to comment on it because I didn't see the final version of it yesterday.
And it could have changed today.
Yeah,
right. But that was what I thought the caveat was. If we do not approve 3 charter schools, then that forevermore will take us out of that arena. So thank you.
Okay.
One more. I'm sorry. I've got 2 more. Okay. So, at least one more. Mr. Spurlock, can you speak to Ms. Sexton's
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah. And Mr. Lee has a timeline. I'm going to turn it over. He's got a timeline of when things happen, and there are some. Well, what Miss Sexton's her frustration, I can certainly understand it, but there are some circumstances that were challenging.
So we do have a procedure. Anytime there's a bus in an accident, it doesn't matter where the bus is. The driver is to notify transportation as soon as physically possible. And then we have a mechanism in place where our staff members take all the information and they send an email to notify the principal, myself, Mr. Everett, Mr. Spurlock, James Evans, Miss Ridley, and I think Patty, our safety director. All of us get an email. And then from that point forward, we follow through our procedure of gathering information, sending information, making contact with the driver to get videos and that kind of thing. 1,000 times we do this, and on this particular one, Emily did not. Now, I'm not downing her. She made a mistake. We've discussed it, and we move forward. She's done 999 correctly, and I'm not picking on Emily. But she happened to be the one who took the call that afternoon. If it had been an early morning accident, and it could have been one of our other ladies that work in transportation, could have just as easily taken care of it. So that's how, but I say all that to say this. The bus driver did make contact. Emily and the transportation department did everything else correctly. Within 4 days, the accident happened on January the 12th. On January the 13th, the parent contacted transportation. At that point, we began to put things in motion. On the 14th, the parent sent in a request for public records request, and she sent it to the transportation department. That's not something we do, but out of assistance, we sent it over to the legal department. That's something they do. Unfortunately, there was a series of events that just compounded all of this. Our attorney was out with her child on COVID, so she was out. We have one attorney that takes care of all this kind of thing, and she was out. And the email got missed. That's one of the things for this procedure with this email chain. It notifies me so that I can do the follow-up with all of the various departments to make sure everybody gets what they are supposed to get. Not making an excuse, but that's what happened. Then on the 18th, we sent the video information over to our county insurance. And then on the 20th, the parent called transportation back wanting status of where things were. She was given Monica's email and phone number. There again, Monica's out. Staff with transportation didn't know that Monica was out. On the 29th, we were made aware by a D&J reporter that there was an article being written. Mr. Spurlock asked me about it. I was not aware of it because we didn't have that email chain, but once we contacted transportation, all the information was available. Transportation had done everything they were supposed to do, had done it correctly, except for send the email. At that point, we began to follow up. On the 31st, Miss Ridley met with Miss Sexton to review the video. Once again, the next thing that kind of went against us when we sent the information over to the county insurance department, as most of us know, Dan Good's no longer with us. He was the sole person that took care of OJIs and all the county's insurance. There's a new person there. Her mother was deceased. She was out for some period of time for bereavement. We've reached out to the county's insurance carrier, which is Collins and Company, on the 31st, on the 10th, the 11th, the 17th, the 18th, and again today. To my knowledge, we have yet to get a response back from them. It has been in insurance's hands, in other words, out of our hands, my department, since the 18th. It's an unfortunate thing. It's happened. We are pushing all the buttons that we can with the insurance department to find out where they are, what they're doing. I have reviewed the packet of information. The driver was given appropriate, in our opinion, appropriate reprimands were put in their file. We do not think at this time that termination is a necessary response. That's the decision that was made by myself and Mr. Everett. Other than an employee who missed one step, if we had made that one step, we would have all been notified, and we could have possibly gotten it a little bit sooner, which is what the intent for the procedure is there for. Unfortunately, that did not happen, which snowballed with Ms. Ridley being out and then the OJI person being out. And all we can say is we're doing all that we can to get resolution from the insurance company. We've turned it all over to them. It's a claim and it's that sort of thing, so it's up to them to determine a resolution to the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
I hope that answers your question.
We spoke briefly before the meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
So I appreciate the information you're providing tonight. Can you speak about the concern about the speed? The speed limit is concerning.
Yes, it is. There's on our cameras, that's a GPS locator, and it does say MPH. But that in that situation on a school campus, that's a ping back and forth, and that's not an accurate measurement of speed. I can't say how fast the bus was driving based on the look, the speed limit. I'll double check Rockvale's school site, but there's some speed tables and things on that back road, and I don't know if you got up to 31 in my truck, I'd probably put my head through the roof, but we will verify that. That's something that we're going to look at tomorrow.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Can I ask, do we really not allow for police to come and do a police report?
It's not our call.
Our calls.
It's not our call.
Police department. It's private property.
It's considered private property. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. It depends on where we are and what's going on. It's not our call.
Right.
Will the SROs not?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They won't. I mean,
I'll have to defer that to Mr. Harris, but which is the SRO supervisor, but I don't know whether they can or they can't.
Yeah.
The shortcomings or the bad timing on the policy, the young lady didn't know really to send the email or whatever.
Mm-hmm. She did know, she just missed that step.
Okay, so she has been re-instructed and
Yes, sir.
everybody's been
Yes, sir.
trained. And
Oh,
everybody knows that.
she sent a bunch of them since then. Like I said, she sent 1,000 of them. She just missed that step on this one, and it's a comedy of things that have happened.
Mr. Spurlock, would it be possible for us to get clarification for our families with Mr. Harris about the proper protocol?
I can do that. I can reach out to him tomorrow.
And I can tell you, it is hit or miss.
It is.
Anytime you're on a school or in a parking lot of a shopping mall, that's private property. They can choose if they want to, if they don't want to, but we can get a confirmation from the supervisor.
What if it was two kids? I mean, these are high school kids. What if two kids get in an accident there and run into each other? And
Same thing.
Happens
Doesn't
a
matter.
lot.
Now, I was,
Bump into each other.
I don't mean to be out of turn, but I was in a fender bender on private property at the end of last year and law enforcement came. How is there any verification later on where the vehicles were, what happened? Had this bus video not captured the fact that my son indeed...
Excuse me, Ms. Sexton, I can't see you for the podium. You are out of order, forgive me, but when we wrap this up, you'll be able to ask some more questions, if you don't mind. So Mr. Lee and Mr. Spurlock, if it would be all right, would you please check on that for us? So we
Yes,
can get
be glad to.
clarification? And if there isn't a policy existing, or if there isn't a way, then obviously that's something we need to address.
Yeah, we can get a statement from,
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
other questions?
Ms. Johnson, one of the things that I was told, and I'm assuming that it holds true on all of our campuses, if those roads or those streets are named, they can write tickets and they can come there. I don't know if it's the same for an accident, but that was one of the things with John Coleman, that the street was named back there by Sharp Springs Park so they could write tickets.
That is correct. If it's not a named road, they cannot write tickets.
So if it is a named road.
They can write tickets.
Okay, so we have a lot more questions than we have answers, and we do appreciate Ms. Sexton bringing this issue to us tonight. Mr. Lee, we appreciate the work you've done on it. It's an unfortunate situation. I'm very thankful that the students were not injured, but obviously they are shaken up, and we'd like to get some resolve to this. So we appreciate that information. Any further questions this evening? No further discussion. Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.